Encore showtime at the Apollo. Apolo Ohno joins us from Italy. We'll get his thoughts at Mahomes math, melting minds, cap restructures that we can't believe, and Thunder. Feel the thunder. Nick Gallo joins us to break down OKC. Yahoo Sports Daily starts right now. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. For the next 2 hours, we're rack stacked packed at Yahoo Sports Daily here to get you caught up on everything you need to know. We have a lot we are going to get into over the course of the next couple of hours, but we start with some interesting moments from college sports because we're trying to figure out, Caroline, how to do the impossible. Like, we are trying to figure out how to fix a sport that seems like it's broken right now. Mike Elko, you see there, talks about a $1.2 billion industry with not a single voice in charge of it, making decisions for the betterment of college football. He is one of many that are sitting here telling us that the world needs someone in charge of college football, a commissioner. But Caroline, this is where we come in and we get to be Debbie Downer. Yeah. I hear it. I know everybody wants it. It's not that easy, my friend.
It's not. And Mike Elko's not the only coach, and college football coaches aren't, the only coaches in college sports that have expressed this sentiment. We've heard it all the way from the top. We've heard it from, from Nick Saban. We've heard it from several current coaches. But it's not that easy because there isn't one single person that can make decisions that's in the best interest of every single conference in college football. Because what's good for the SEC is not good for the MAC or the Mountain West or the Sun Belt Conference. It's not like Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, right? That Roger Goodell can make decisions that are in the best interest of all 32 teams in the league, in the best interest of all 32 owners in the league, because everyone in the NFL follows the same set of rules. That the playing field in the NFL is, constructed to be as even as humanly possible. That's not the case in college football. So how can you have a commissioner that's looking out for the best interests of the little guys and also the biggest of the big, the behemoths of college football? But also in that same breath, Fitz, what everyone wants is structure, uniformity, one governing body or one individual to be the overseer of college football. Don't we have that? Like, isn't that what the NCAA is supposed to be? Isn't the NCAA a governing body that provides checks and balances to all sports and all coaches and all teams and all universities? Isn't the NCAA kind of the judiciary committee to make sure that everyone is following the rules? Isn't the whole point of the NCAA to look out for the best interest of every single college football program in America? That's what the NCAA is for. But nobody listens to the NCAA. We've all just kind of scoffed at the NCAA. We've all just kind of thrown the NCAA out as like, the NCAA has no power, because they don't. Because nobody listens to the NCAA. The NCAA has rules in place to say, hey, no. In order to maintain at least a semblance of competitive balance, you cannot do X, Y, and Z. And so college football coaches and athletic directors say, but we're not going to listen to you. We're going to take it to court. And we're going to let the local state courts or our local county courts rule in favor of what we want. So I hear you, Mike Elko. I hear you, Nick Saban. I hear you, every college football coach who is whining and crying and banging on the table for a commissioner or a governing body. But we have that, and you don't listen to them because they don't always rule in your favor. So if we have a commissioner, you have to listen to them, whether you like it or not.
Well, look, that's in part because a commissioner is part of a broader concept. And this is where I know nobody wants to be bored with legalese, but like a commissioner works when you have 32 owners in the NFL, for example, like you point out, that have one objective. Those 32 owners, like the most beautiful thing about Roger Goodell is that you blame Roger Goodell for everything that's wrong with the NFL, and you never blame the owner of your favorite football team. It's designed like That's the structure, right? They basically prop up a meat shield to stand up in front and take all the blame, and he gets paid $40 million for it. It's a great job. But part of that comes from the fact that there has been a legal precedent set by a group of owners that are now negotiating against a group of players. This is why I continue to say that the only real fix for college athletics is going to be the eventual unionization of all college football players, and then they're going to take on all of the institutions as one group. Like, until you get to that point, but you've got to go through the legal process of doing that. Like, the Las Vegas Raiders do not have the ability to go out and simply say, you know what's best for the Raiders? This, and we're going to do it. Go all the way back to when the Raiders thought they were going to move. When teams want to relocate in the NFL, they have to go to the entirety of the NFL because they are actually not their own entity. They are part of the NFL. They are 1/32nd of the NFL. The other owners in the NFL have to approve it. Imagine if Alabama wanted to make change, and in order to make whatever change that was for their school, they had to get Michigan and Ohio State to vote on that change. That's what we're talking about. What we're missing when we say we need a commissioner is that you only have a commissioner if you have a legally binding agreement with every single team that's part of your organization. That means you would need a legally binding agreement that holds Alabama, Ohio State to the same standard as UNLV and Boise State. I don't know how that ever exists, because there isn't a world where Boston College is going to be facing the same problems as a football school that Clemson is facing. There isn't a world where we're going to have a conversation about Oregon State that feels the same about any conversation that we're having, let's say, about Georgia or Florida State, right? So the problem here is that what Mike Elko is really asking for is for a breakaway of the top 20 or 30 teams in college football to have their own little group that becomes their own little thing that then they have a commissioner of, and they'll all be held to one standard. I just think that that's so far down the road of legalese that it's almost impossible. And to be a commissioner, look, I love this. Our buddy, Josh Pate, our coworker, you can check him out on Yahoo Sports Network. Josh Pate talks about all the time that he's going to be he's the king of college football. He's the future czar of college football. I think that what we miss in that is that if you truly wanted to be the person in charge of all of college football, what you would have to do is be able to put your finger on the pulse of every single thing that the top programs in the world need. The Ohio States, the Michigans, the Texas, you go up and down the list. And those teams would have to have the same needs met that San Diego State is having. And I say these random schools because these random schools fall under the same umbrella, that we would need the same level of focus and attention on the needs of the University of Tennessee as Middle Tennessee State University. And I'm here to tell you, their budgets, their stadiums, everything that they face is wildly different. So it's cool to say that college football needs a commissioner. It's also cool to say that the world needs world peace. We're about as likely to get one as we are the other, to me. Without a massive legal precedent across all boards, I think it's going to take truly a breakaway of the top 30 or 40 schools that decide they're going to go play in their own sandbox. They're going to have their own commissioner. That's the only way we ever get to what Mike Elko is actually asking for here.
It's almost like I feel like college coaches want their cake and eat it too. They want there to be a competitive balance. They want there to be checks and balances. They want there to be, very cut and dry and black and white specific rules that you can abide by, but also at the same time, they don't want to follow those rules. They don't want to be held accountable for, coloring outside of the line, so to speak, and the rules, the soft rules that exist in college sports. I think the only thing at the point that we are at right now, the only thing that can truly help college football, I don't say save college football for a very specific reason. College football doesn't need saving. There's never been more money invested into college football than there is right now. There's never been more eyeballs on the college football product than there is right now. Doesn't need to be saved because the actual product and the money is there. It's never been better than it is right now, but help. Because I will agree that a college football coach's job has never been more difficult than it is right now. It's unsustainable where we are right now. And nothing is going to change or nothing is going to help college football until we get uniformity across the country. It's not right that we have different college football laws, college sports laws in one state that we do in another state, and we have border states in the same conference. It's not right that in Missouri you can start making NIL money in high school if you commit in high school to an in-state public Missouri institution. That is an overwhelming competitive advantage in the state of Missouri. They don't have that in Kentucky. They don't have that in other states in the state that participate in the same conferences that Missouri public universities compete in. So we have individual states that are operating under completely different bylaws, codes, and laws that the other state is competing against. And until we get uniformity across the country, until we can get standardization across the entire map, across the entire college football globe, then we're going to have competitive imbalances, and we're going to have college football coaches that are constantly banging on the table for change.
The minute college football tries to tell one state what their legislation can do regarding name, image, likeness is the minute this goes to a far, like you're talking about Supreme Court level battles that will hit. That's why we are a decade of court battles away from actually fixing this problem. And by the way, this is not just a college football problem. There's also a college basketball problem, a deeper conversation to be had we'll have at some point about whether or not the same commissioner would have to run all of these things. But college basketball is facing their own issue right now. Name, image, likeness certainly has changed the college basketball game. We see young kids come in all the time. And right now we've got controversy with somebody that appears to be, in the eyes of many, a top 1, 2, or 3 pick in the NBA draft next year. Darren Peterson, who had 23 points in 18 minutes last night, but then pulled himself out in the beginning of the second half. A couple minutes into the second half, he signaled to Bill Self that he's ready to hang it up for the night, is the way that's stated. Now, Self said afterwards, we only got 18 minutes out of him. This continues a trend. He has missed a ton of time. He's missed 11 games so far this season, and there's been times that there's some people that think he's been capable of playing. There's times that he said he hasn't been capable of playing, and it at least feels right now that what you've got is a kid making a bunch of NIL money, and from the outside looking in, it feels like maybe he's not as impassioned to play every single night because he knows he's 1 foot in college basketball and 1 foot towards the NBA. Like, as much as we're talking about college football problems, college basketball has a massive problem right now when they see one of their highest paid NIL biggest stars deciding night in and night out, not just if he's going to play, but if he's going to play a whole game.
Yeah, and you're going to hear a lot of, NIL is doing this. I don't think it's just NIL. Does that contribute to it a little bit? Yeah, probably. Whenever you're going to be, cashing checks, that maybe you're not as motivated, but this isn't the first time that we've seen this with a guy that we know is going to go one and done. I was at LSU the same time that Ben Simmons was at LSU. Ben Simmons didn't go to class. His GPA started with a 0 because he knew that he wasn't going to stick around. So why go to class? Like, why waste your time studying and taking tests when you know you're going to be out of here in several months? Ben Simmons wasn't motivated to play at LSU. Ben Simmons wasn't motivated to play school because he knew that he was going to be making millions of dollars in the NBA. And that was pre-NIL. It was like before NIL was even a thought in our minds. So it's not just the factor of NIL, but sure, NIL doesn't necessarily help the case here. Look, Darren Peterson isn't doing himself any sort of favors. I know the intangibles. I know the sheer and raw talent. I know that Darren Peterson has the ability to completely change an NBA franchise. But if I'm a general manager in the NBA, I'm not touching him with a 10-foot pole. If you can't play to the level of tenacity and the level of want in college, how can I expect you to dial up that intensity whenever you're making 10x what you're making in college? If you don't love the game at this stage, at age 18, when you are playing for a national championship contending team, a team with one of the greatest histories and rich traditions in college basketball, if that doesn't do it for you, what are you going to do in the NBA when the spirit and the camaraderie is not nearly to the level that it is at the college level? I think Darren Peterson is doing himself no favors whatsoever, and I do feel for Bill Self that I'm sure he's feeling pressure from the athletic department and from the boosters that are paying Darren Peterson handsomely, and Bill Self is like, look, there's only so much that I can do. If the kid doesn't want to play, if he doesn't care enough, what am I supposed to do about it?
Plenty more to break down as this story continues to develop. We will keep you updated on it. but not a great look for the player, not a great look for college basketball last night. In the meantime, coming up next, going to get into some of the math that has rocked us all. A contract restructuring that changes the offseason for the Chiefs and reminds us of an advantage that Kansas City has that Baltimore doesn't.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Now anyway.
Yeah, that's the one, huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
Is the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you? Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is like, he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I would say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
The Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have agreed to a restructured deal for this season that clears out $43.5 million in cap space per over the cap. Mahomes' number went from 78.2 to a paltry $34.65 million after the move. Now, obviously we see this a lot, but Caroline, this is just a reminder that, if you're Kansas City, you always knew this was in your back pocket. For anyone that doesn't know the way this works, essentially every time that there's a bunch of guaranteed money, he had a ton of guaranteed money on the cap this year. What they did is they turned it into a signing bonus. They pay him that signing bonus all at once, and then that lets them prorate the signing bonus over the duration of the rest of his contract. So however many years he has left on his deal, you can just take that's now been converted to a bonus, and you can pay that out over the course of every year. At some point, the theory is there would be consequence to this when you eventually reach years where you have a massive number and you can't restructure it anymore. But if you have a quarterback that's going to be part of your organization for a very long time, you ain't worried about that. You just get to push the money down, even it out, move it over. So this is a logistics sort of easy moment, Caroline, and a reminder to everybody that smart teams know that they can load these quarterback contracts, and then they can just start to shift and maneuver them as needed to make sure that they have the cap space they need every year.
This is yet another example that the salary cap in the NFL does not cap spending. And I want football fans everywhere to listen to what I am saying. That when the owner of your favorite team blames the cap for not being able to re-sign your favorite player or to sign big names in free agency, that owner just does not want to spend money. If you want to get around the cap, you can. Like, there are plenty of ways of doing that, a la the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. But what you have to do is pay cash. The cash and the cap are two very different things. If you sign a check and you give cash today, right now, that does not count against your cap. So if an owner is blaming the cap, it's because the owner doesn't want to spend the cash. I think about Jerry Jones when he said, well, we can't hold on to Amari Cooper because of the cap. And it's like, no, Jerry, you just don't want to pay Amari Cooper the cash. So keep that in mind. The cap is not hard and fast. The cap in the NHL, that's a cap. You spend the money, you guarantee the money, that goes against your cap. The NFL salary cap, however, it's kind of like Play-Doh. You can mold it and frame it and change it any way that you want, as long as you are willing to pay that cash and sign that check up front. The Chiefs are just unloading the money now, pushing it down the line to when the salary cap does balloon a little bit in a couple of years. They're just pushing it down the line. We're saying, we'll worry about it later. No biggie. And when that day comes that we have to pay the piper, we'll just push it down the line even more if we need to clear up more salary cap space.
Yeah, and that's, the Chiefs still find themselves $11 million over the cap. Again, they will work these things out. Chris Jones is another, it's a convertible contract. Like this is the moment that they have. And it certainly makes them more flexible. But Caroline, I think there is one rare exception to your rule, because your rule is very correct. The rare exception to that rule is what we're seeing in Baltimore. If you're Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson's money is guaranteed. We know this from the outset. That's what he wanted. He wanted a guaranteed contract. He didn't care about the signing bonus. Like you look at the way Lamar's contract is structured. This is why everybody that's screaming, oh my God, the Ravens want to figure out how to get Lamar Jackson's contract reworked. It's because of the fact that they don't have this level of flexibility. Lamar's contract right now, this year, his cap number is $74.5 million, right? So if they want to do any sort of a restructure into a bonus, and that what they need to do is add years. They only have one year left that's not voidable. So it's complicated. But basically what it comes down to is Baltimore, in order to get the freedom and capability to keep players, needs to find a way to extend Lamar Jackson, which means getting Lamar to agree to another deal. But Lamar likes to get all of his money. He likes to make sure that all of his money is guaranteed. So, this is where it gets really complicated with the Ravens, because they have a couple of free agents. One is a wildly regarded center, Tyler Linderbaum, that they would like to keep in the building. But the ability to do these things is going to be difficult if they can't reach a long-term extension with Lamar Jackson, which has not so far been the way that he likes to do business.
The reason why the Chiefs were able to move some money down the line is because they have years down the line. Patrick Mahomes is under contract in Kansas City until 2031. Lamar Jackson is only under contract in Baltimore until 2027. So you can't push money down the line if the years aren't there. I mean, Lamar Jackson has a $75 million cap hit both in 2026 and in 2027. So in order for the Ravens to clear up cap space on Lamar Jackson, they're going to have to extend Lamar Jackson, add years there to then turn some stuff into signing bonuses, whatever kind of funny money you have to do to clear up cap space. You do that when you have time. So that's the Ravens' number one priority at this point to clear up cap space. It's adding years onto the deal, extending Lamar Jackson, and then you're able to alleviate some of that cap space as you push it into 2028 and beyond. The issue with that is, negotiating with Lamar Jackson is different than negotiating with any other quarterback or any other player in the National Football League, because Lamar Jackson represents himself. Remember, we just went through this with Lamar. We went through the very public negotiations. We went through the conversations of, is Lamar going to play somewhere else in the National Football League? Ultimately, obviously, Lamar and the Ravens got a deal done, but it wasn't as simple as going to the negotiating table and just working through terms, because Lamar Jackson represents himself. So if the Ravens want to create some cap space this season and next season, they have to add those years. So they're going to have to go back to the negotiating table and give Lamar Jackson yet another extension to free up some space there.
Yeah, the last time he did a deal was April of 2023, so just a few years ago, and it was a 5-year, $260 million contract extension with $185 million in total guarantees. So it was not fully Deshaun Watson, but it was pretty damn close. So he wants a ton of that money to be fully guaranteed, as most quarterbacks do, because that's the power that you have at the position. Right, 100%. It's a glorious thing. So what you're looking at now is a 30-year-old quarterback that they're going to start contract renegotiation conversations with, but we've learned in this process that Lamar's not afraid to play chicken when it comes to contract. To your point, he doesn't have an agent, which is a weird process because, look, nobody wants to be a part of negotiations. Sometimes it gets a little bit hairy. Essentially, by the nature of the beast, a negotiation is your agent sitting in the room with the team, and your agent is saying, this guy's worth this much, and the team is trying to drive that value down. It's a lot less comfortable if you're sitting. Look, I have a contract. I don't really want to sit with the bosses at Yahoo face to face while they tell me why I'm not worth what I think I'm worth. That's just not the most pleasant experience. But Lamar has gone through that, and he's willing to go through that, right? So I think part of what makes this really interesting is that because Lamar doesn't have an agent, nobody's out there leaking information for Lamar. Nobody really knows what Lamar wants other than Lamar. But what we do know is that when we've seen him in the past, he wants security, he wants a reasonable deal that gets him back to the market, and he wants a ton of that money to be fully guaranteed. So the Ravens are likely going to, in order to get the flexibility that they want right now, they're likely going to have to make Lamar Jackson one of, if not the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL for the next 5 years. Like, that just seems to be the proof of concept of what we have. Lamar's going to have to be willing to agree to that. The Ravens are going to have to feel like they've still got 5 great years of Lamar, who's had some health concerns because of the way he plays the game. They're going to have to make sure that he's the guy. I don't think there's any question that Lamar is the guy. But if you're the Ravens, you got to look at it and say, damn, we are in our Super Bowl window right now, which means we better sign this and we better get this done. And if you're Lamar, you know that they're that desperate. Like, you know that they need this more than you need it. They need you to agree to this level of long-term security so they can push some money around. This becomes wildly interesting because the Ravens lack flexibility to, I think, put a Super Bowl team around Lamar unless Lamar gives them that flexibility. And we don't know if Lamar is going to let that happen.
And if you're the Ravens and you have any shred of hesitation that Lamar will not be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback 5 years down the line. I'm not saying he won't be. I'm just saying if the Ravens feel that way, doesn't matter. If you feel like he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback this year, if you feel like he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback next year, if you feel like in the next 4 years you are Super Bowl contenders because of what Lamar Jackson brings to you and to your franchise, you have to do whatever it takes. People in this league get hired and fired because of what they do at that specific position. Just ask Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the general manager in Minnesota, who just lost his job because he made the wrong decision at the quarterback position. So if you're the Ravens and you're looking at it and saying, look, we might be terrible in 2032 because Lamar's past his prime, doesn't matter because of what he brings to you right now. You worry about 2032 and 2031. That's a 2031 problem. You worry about 2026 right here, right now. And if that's what you have to do is put yourself in a little bit of a pretzel, or you fear that you might be putting yourself into a pretzel 5 to 10 years down the line, you can't worry about that. You have to worry about the right now. Because Lamar Jackson's going to make somebody a Super Bowl contender. Better be you.
It's impossible to look at this situation when you have a two-time. We say this every time with Lamar. 2-time could have been 3-time MVP. And I love that context that we give. Like, you have Hall of Fame level, like first ballot Hall of Fame level success on Lamar Jackson's name. When you have that, you're right. You can't give a damn about 5 years from now. And guess what? If you win a Super Bowl, your fans won't give a damn about 5 years from now either. If in 5 years you're suddenly sitting there saying, man, we're stuck on this contract. Sorry, guys, but you won a Super Bowl. You got a couple of AFC championship games in there. Everybody's going to say, yeah, we get it. Yeah, we understand. You know, I think if you're sitting here in 5 years and you're rebuilding yet again around the quarterback position and you didn't maximize what you had with Lamar, nobody's going to get it, especially with the new regime, especially with all of the change that they're facing right now. I don't think you can give enough emphasis to how incredibly important it is that they get this thing right. They have to figure it out. All right, we've got to figure it out. We're going to get into some Olympics next. Apolo Ohno going to join us. We'll figure out if we're seeing the greatest Winter Olympian ever in Italy. Coming up next.
Peterson looked like the clear-cut number one pick in the first half of that game. He looked like the clear-cut number one pick. The fluidity on the floor, the ease in which he moved off ball defensively, creating havoc. He looked majestic.
Sometimes it just comes down to as simple as, like, this dude moves the way basketball players are born to move. Was Kevin Durant the last college scorer that made it look as effortless?
Did you go to the casino after the fight?
Hell yeah.
How'd you do?
They're up.
Up.
We're up.
Well
Yeah,
done.
we're up.
Were you just walking around there after the fight and people recognizing you? Like, weren't you the guy that was just on the UFC?
Yeah, that's where I get recognized the most.
Really?
The other,
What's that
with
say?
the other gambling legends, everyone recognizes me there. Anywhere else I go, no one knows me. But if I go there, everyone points me out.
The 72 Dolphins is infamously the no-name defense. This one's the too many name defense.
Too many names,
Too many names.
Defenses were ahead of offenses this season for a lot of it. Like the best teams in the NFL had the best defenses. We're sitting here talking about this defense and how good it was and how hard it is to isolate one player. And yeah, that's the sport of football. It's a team sport. It's hard to isolate individual players, and Seattle really exemplified that all year.
We're ranking the actual threats from the absolute frauds.
Your contenders, who do you got?
My contenders. So I have Sporting, and I say that because they have had a strong top 8 finish over some other heavyweight teams.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually very, very hard to break down as a squad, and they're very, very strong in transition.
And they got a guy named Luis Suarez, which is fun. Just not...
Guard your ears.
Klaebo becomes just the second Olympian, summer or winter, ever to win 10 gold medals after Michael Phelps, the second to win 5 gold medals at a single Winter Olympics, the greatest Winter Olympian of them all. Well, we'll get some thoughts on that now. Joining us now, Apolo Ohno, 8-time Olympic medalist. All right, so first and foremost, we'll get to Klaebo in a second, but like, show us the fit. What do we got? What are we wearing here today?
Oh, the fit.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
The fit is in support of the women's gold medal match against Canada tonight. They're gonna smash. They smoked them last time they played them 5-0. So I'm very I'm routine. So I want to keep that going.
You're not super.
We're going to talk about
greats,
greats, right? You want to talk about goats?
Yeah, talk about greats. Come on, give me the GOAT status on Klaebo. Where are we?
I mean, for what this guy has done in a sport that is probably only popular for a few of the countries, that's like the reality. He's exceptional. He's obviously done something that is nearly impossible. The guy's physical, sprinting, finishing capability is very unique. But Phelps is in a different category. Is he the Phelps of the Winter Games? Well, he's not American, so in my book, that means no. But he's exceptional. I mean, this guy is a complete monster. To be so consistent is really tough. These winter sports are tricky. A lot of these countries that specialize in some of these sports, they're just good. I don't know how they're growing these guys and how they're growing these kids. Maybe it's like yak milk. I'm not sure, but something is special about some of these Norwegians. They're very strong. Yeah.
It built different for sure, but I do appreciate the level of patriotism that we have here on this program. That's that's what makes the Olympic Games so special. Is we put everything else to the side and it's just USA.
Yeah. Look at Phelps. USA. Look how absurd that is. Look how many gold. I mean, that's just completely insane. This guy.
Absurd.
He just was built for swimming. I think he and I have the same inseam, but he's like 8 inches taller than me. Like, he is a true specimen that was designed to swim. I mean, just remarkable, that guy. Amazing.
Truly made in a lab. But as we're talking about GOATs and excellence and the US of A, we saw Michaela Schifrin become the first Winter Olympian ever to win gold 12 years apart in the same event. So as somebody who participated in 3 Olympic Games, put that into perspective for us, just the level of consistency, the level of training, how difficult that is to be at the top of your game 12 years apart.
I look at that as something that is truly remarkable. And I think here's how I look at it from my perspective, right? When you're young and you're hungry and you have nothing to lose, there's like this freedom, wildness associated with how you compete. Your risk profile is super high because you don't even know what it feels like to really crash and burn or fail on the world's greatest stage. The longer you compete in a sport, the longer that you stay on top, the longer that you are considered one of the great ones in your particular niche, the harder it is psychologically to manage that pressure. Your body is not responding in the same way. Although technology and recovery and longevity and all these athletes has really been advancing, I think the reality is This thing here starts to play mind control games on you. And so as you get older, you want to win just as badly as before. The body does not respond in the same way. You have to make modifications. There's younger athletes that may or may not look up to you. They may or not respect the legacy of what you've already completed. And so for someone like Michaela, who has gone back and forth between great and not doing so great, she's been very open about this talking. She shared that very intimate moment about her father and how important this moment was for her. There's almost like this freedom moment. So I would say towards the end of your career, you build these calluses on the mind, because you don't want to be put in that situation. You don't want to feel like you're failing on the world's greatest stage. And so the risk profile starts to decrease. Maybe you're a little bit less to take that turn in that slalom, even more aggressive, to lean that couple of more inches or millimeters. That would make the difference between winning and losing. But what was so spectacular about Michaela is the margin that she had dominated this race by. I think someone said like 1.5 seconds was her margin of victory over the other finishers. And that is so remarkable. If you add up, I think, the last like 3 or 4 Olympic Games of all of the winners and the margin to second place, it is about the same of what she did in this single game. So she was flawless. I talked to Breezy Johnson. I had lunch with Breezy Johnson, gold medalist here, speed racer in this similar sport. And she said, when the conditions are decent or good, Michaela is nearly unbeatable. And I think that's exactly what we saw yesterday. Was the kind of stage was set, the pressure was on, and she just delivered. And it's really, really hard to do at the end of anyone's career, especially when all the lights are there and what I call the weight of the 5 rings is on your shoulders.
Apolo, you talk a lot about the mentality of all of this. And it's just interesting to me because the closing ceremonies are Sunday. We're just a few days away. A bunch of people are done competing. How hard is it for everybody that still has something left to accomplish to maintain some level of focus when half the Olympians that are there are finally at the rage party point?
Yeah, they're at the Holland House, they're at the Dutch House, and they're just smashing Heineken's, eating McDonald's, and they're like finally like, oh my God, pizza. It's hard, right? I think like speed skaters, for example, they compete on the second day of the Olympic Games all the way into almost the second to last day of the Olympic Games. So the entire time that they are here in Italy, they are locked in, they're dialed in. Everything is curated around how they can show up as their best. And your peers and friends are out there they're hanging out and they're relaxing, they're staying up late, they're no longer focused. So this is the important where I call they need to stay in the tunnel. They need to create this bubble of focus around them. This is a once in a lifetime moment. In 20 years, they'll look back in this moment, and I think many of them will say, like, man, had I only been a little bit more focused or taken that seriously. I think everyone knows how to prepare, but the reality is you take a 4 or 8 or 10-year journey for this moment. And when you arrive, you really don't want to leave anything to chance. And we saw the margin of victory sometimes is just so small that anything that's outside of your normal routine tends to be a bit of a risk. And so we try not to do those things. And I've been there. I mean, for me, I kept it the same every single time, even though it was the Olympic Games. My routine was the same. I mean, I brought in my final Olympics, I replicated my bedroom, dude. It was crazy. I had my entire bedroom, pillows, bed, dresser. I shipped it. I had a friend drive a U-Haul from Salt Lake City, drove it across the border to Vancouver, BC, and we had what we call a safe house, which is near the rink, and I set up the bedroom exactly as what it was in 2010. I wanted nothing to be different. I wanted my sleep quality to be the same. I was maniacal. I shipped the sauna there. I mean, it was, this is what we go through. It's a part of the game.
Whoa, that is crazy. Dedication to the craft, no doubt. But you bring up
Yeah.
the Holland House, and it is now a bucket list item of mine to party with the Dutch after the Olympics. Who is the biggest party animals at the Olympic Games?
I think it used to be the snowboarders, like when they were just coming on the scene, right? They just were like just there. I think Shaun White really helped professionalize the sport into like training and taking it seriously. We were always like, don't these dudes just like party and like hang out all day and play in the snow? And that's not the case. They're legit. I mean, what they do is remarkable. But I used to think that was in the beginning. I would say the Dutch fans, because they have somehow not only professionalized the sport of long track speed skating. Like if you come here to the ice rink, we're about to watch Jordan Stolz here in about an hour. When you watch speed skating live, they all wear orange. They're all in kind of this unison chant. It's really amazing how they professionalize the sport, both on the fan side, on the training and competition side, and then also they really cater to these fans where they provide an atmosphere where if you go watch a long track speed skating race in Holland, and you should do this, like in Heerenveen, it's like a full-on rave, like in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. They like dim the lights, it's dark. There's like you got Tiesto out there, you got these DJs out there, like what the hell's going on? Like my pupils are dilated and I'm completely sober. This is complete madness, like this is amazing. So they're just really good at providing like an amazing atmosphere and energy. And what they used to do is they used to all buy all the tickets in the corners of the long track. So I call it the Dutch wave. And every time the Dutch athlete rounds the corner, they've got these bells and these horns like, wah! It was really cool to see. And that's now transferring over into short track because they're competing so well in short track. So, I'm going to be there very loud, proud, and American tonight. I'm not the tallest of human beings, but my voice is deep and strong, and I'll be loud, and we'll be cheering for those women on the ice hockey. So it'll be fun.
I'm just saying, like, now I'm adding it to my list. Party with Willie, party with Snoop, and party at the Olympics. These are not like I'm adding it to the trio list here of places to get away. Who knew I could go to a rave and do all of this? All right, you mentioned Stolz going for his third gold medal in 3 races. What would it mean for the sport if he comes out and does what we all hope he can do?
If Jordan does what I believe that he can do tonight, and I believe that all the statistics, all the data, and all the proof that he has the capability of winning a third distance, a third gold medal, he will be only the second American ever since 1980 to have done this feat. In 1980, it was the great Eric Heiden who won all 5 distances, something that will never be replicated ever again because every sport has become so specialized. The 500 and 1,000 is classic sprinters, but the 1,500 is a little bit different. This is all about keeping your technique together when that lactate is filled up inside of your body. You're feeling that metal in tasting it in your mouth, as we spoke about last time. And just kind of maintaining your ability to put the pressure into the ice, maintain your technique, keeping your aerodynamics in line, and not what we call running, meaning pushing straight back, but pushing to the side and generating that sheer force. Jordan has the greatest corners in the world, period, out of any sprinter, any long-distance athlete, and that's what I believe will be the true defining factor here. But this is the Olympic Games, and anything can happen. I think something that's so special about Jordan, he's so young, only 21 years old. He is a physical specimen designed for this sport. I asked the guy who does his blades. He's the guy who's the technician who handles all of his equipment, gets them perfect for every single race, depending on the ice conditions. And I asked him, I said, what is Jordan Stolz' routine before he goes out there and performs? And Mark, we call him Marky, his name's Mark. Mark says, you'd be surprised, but the kid 2 hours before is asleep. He's just taking a nap. I'm like, what do you mean he's taking a nap? He goes, he has this ability to just shut his brain off and just simplify his world. He wakes up, goes to the rink, does the same normal routine, gets on the start line, boom, smashes the world record. So there's something beautiful in his simplicity. I think it's got a lot to do from the small hometown beginnings of where he was brought up, how his father and his mother raised him, and they kept it simple, right? They are really strong and tight-knit as a family, and this kid is very special. So anything can happen. I will be there. I want to witness history. I think this kid has what it takes. And then he's got one more for the mass start. That's a little bit of a different race. That's a newer event for long track speed skating where everyone races together, so it's not about pure speed. But this is the one that I really care about, and he does have what it takes. And so, again, I think the last time a man won this race from the United States was in the year 2002. That was my first Olympic Games. Derek Parra was the last time someone won this race. I believe Shawnee Davis got silver in the 2006 Games in Torino and silver in 2010 in Vancouver. And so this is his time. I mean, I said this many times again. All of these athletes, like that Dutch guy there that we see on the screen, that guy is a freak of nature. He skates amazing. Like, he is exceptional as an athlete. And to have Jordan there just skating so fast and so well, it just proves how difficult this is. So, speed skating, again, is an unconventional sport. All of us, we traditionally watch throughout every year in between the games, like traditional American stick and ball sports. But this kid is special. I mean, his sheer ability to process pain while keeping his psychological awareness and focus intact is truly remarkable. So I'm very happy for him. I'm proud of him, and I can't wait to see him just go out there and smash it.
It has been our pleasure and honor to get to talk to you throughout the course of these Olympics. You are such a star in everything you do. Your breakdowns have been incredible. Apollo, we really appreciate your time, your expertise. Enjoy not only speed skating, but the hockey. And like all of us, let's just hope that when the men get on the ice, it's not as close as it was last night, too. A little puckered up still. Apollo, appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Stay safe in Italy.
Thanks.
Always great stuff from
the legend
Apollo Ohno. Coming up next, playoffs or practice? We'll break down some of the bubble teams in the NBA coming up next.
You covered Darnold with the Jets. Where are you kind of just feeling about him?
Another game with 3 games in a row, no turnovers for Sam. The sack avoidance night from Sam was incredible. The back and forth between Sam and Milton Williams was honestly really impressive for Sam on my part, because I thought that it wasn't his best game of the season, but it was the game he needed to have, which was clean. He won the Super Bowl. He's going to get a contract extension. It's kind of cool to see his redemption story.
What was it like being at MSG? Like in the back, the locker room? Like, could you feel that it was a little different?
It's a total different experience from being there as a spectator to actually being there backstage and all of that stuff. Total different experience. I was so tuned into my fight. I don't even think I was looking at the referee. I'm just there, just kind of just like looking down. I'm listening to what he's saying. At the same time, I'm just thinking about the fight. I'm like, yeah, all right, y'all done? You ready? Right? Yeah. All right, it's time to go.
The Premier League has gotten so successful. Survival has become such a priority. Maybe that doesn't lead to the most like entertaining football match.
The one thing that you want to avoid is having this like runaway first place team by Boxing Day, which happens more often than not. This has been, I would argue, a little bit more exciting this season. The entire mid-table is packed.
Yeah.
So
as an Everton fan, I'm like, yeah, we in the mix.
For Clippers fans, I just feel bad, Tom. I mean, I feel bad. It's always something with the Clippers. It's always something. And then, you know, the year begins and the whole aspiration thing, and then the team sucks. And then they start winning and they make a run and they're in the play-in and the playoffs are ahead. And then this all happens. James Harden does it again. He asks for another trade.
Playoffs or practice? That's right. A new segment here on Yahoo Sports Daily. The All-Star break is over. Play resumes tonight. So we thought we'd take a look at some teams that are squarely in the play-in, but we're not here for play-in. That's participation trophies. We're going to figure out whether they're getting to the playoffs or practice, and we're going to do it with sound effects because we are purely adult here. So if we're going to give you the team, and if we think that they're headed to the playoffs, you'll hear
playoffs.
Oh, God. Can we get that one more time? I never get
playoffs.
I'm just... There we
Playoffs.
go. But if they're not headed for the playoffs, if we think that they're just going to have to spend more time in the gym, you're going to hear?
We're in here talking about practice.
Oh, God. That
practice.
It just drips swag on that. Okay, so, again, we're not talking play-in, we're talking playoffs. So let's start with the Orlando Magic. 7th in the East. They got news yesterday that Franz Wagner will be sidelined indefinitely as he tries to rehab that high ankle sprain. Reevaluated in 3 weeks. Playoffs or practice for the Magic?
Playoffs. I just love that we're doing this because this is two of my vocal stims. Look, losing Franz Wagner is not going to be very beneficial for Orlando. The question will be who is able to fill in and reproduce the same kind of offensive production that Franz Wagner was able to provide for Orlando. I mean, he's second leading scorer only behind Paolo Banchero, but I'm looking at this Magic team not as who the heck is going to step up, but who is going to take this opportunity. Because I look at Anthony Black, who is good for, 20, 25 points a game on any given night. I'm also really fascinated to see what Tristan da Silva can do when he is given this opportunity, or really if he is given this opportunity. So I do think while Orlando's offensive production may take a hit with losing Wagner, I think they'll be fine. Like, they still are producing offensively at such an insanely high clip. And there are plenty of guys up and down that roster that I think can step up on any given night.
Yeah, so look, I agree with you, and I'm going to say, for the record, I'm going to say playoffs on this. Playoffs? That's right. There we go.
Playoffs.
I'm going to say playoffs, but I will say I'm a little more concerned than you are. If you look at the offensive efficiency numbers, they've dipped in the last couple of months. They find themselves now in the low 20 to 21, 22 offensive efficiency expectation numbers, and that bothers me a little bit, but I love young teams going down the stretch because young teams still have legs, right? So oversimplification here, but to me, if you've got a young team that I still believe can figure out some of this offensive stuff, the Magic got to get a little bit more rhythm every single night. That's why they're on the verge of the play-in, though. That's why they're sort of stuck in this bubble. But I do believe that they can get themselves into a series because, frankly, I think even down the stretch, they'll play themselves into that conversation. I love youth. I say this repeatedly. I love youth in a long grind of a basketball season. So 28-25, by the way, the Magic are not, seventh in the East is a disappointment for some. I think the Magic are right on schedule for where we expected them to be. Let's just see if they can figure out their offensive production without Wagner. That's going to be a little bit tougher. How about the team of this show? The Charlotte Hornets were basically dressed in all starter jackets from the 90s at this point. 26-29, currently 9th in the East. We go in playoffs or practice for Charlotte?
Playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs? Don't even say it like that. It's not even playoffs ? It's playoffs ! For the Charlotte Hornets, the official team of this program. I mean, the Hornets have won 10 of their last 11, and the one game that they dropped was a down-to-the-wire, last-second loss against the top team in the East, the Detroit Pistons, even after we had Bedlam at the Spectrum, and we had a total and complete bench-clearing brawl on the sidelines of this game. Charlotte is playing their best basketball right now. You have Con Knippel, who's playing like the Rookie of the Year, who simply cannot miss from three. And then you're getting the offensive production from Melo and from Brandon Miller. This Charlotte Hornets team, to your point about the Magic, they're very young. And at the beginning of this season, I think they were just trying to figure themselves out. They've figured it out. They've found so much consistency. I think that they're able to keep up this level of winning. I think they found themselves in the playoffs 100%.
How often do we talk about complimentary football, right? Like, I want to just start consistently talking about Charlotte for complimentary basketball, because I just mentioned some of the offensive woes that the Magic have faced this season. That is not the case for Charlotte, who's still a top 10 team in offensive efficiency, but at the same time, they are wildly efficient on the defensive side of the ball too. Like they are one of the few teams. Like, if you are a person that loves to come out and question whether or not NBA regular season games matter, whether or not perimeter defense actually exists, and whether or not a team can close out, especially defensively, I would say watch some more Hornets basketball. Not in those jerseys. Those jerseys are trash. And those jerseys are great.
Jerseys are not trash.
They're trash. Those alt jerseys are those are god awful. Like, those are god awful. Like, what about
They're not
that
as good. Like, purple and teal is the best colorway in sports. Period. Arizona Diamondbacks, bring it back. But if this is your alternative, I don't hate it.
No, this is trash. Like, look, you have one of the most signature looks in the NBA. If suddenly somebody turns around and they turn on the TV and they're like, "Oh, what team is playing?" and they think it might be some random exhibition game, then you have failed on your alt jerseys. Charlotte has failed.
Look how happy Melo looks wearing that jersey.
That's because he knows he looks fire when he's driving around in that. Like, he's speaking of Melo, like, look, he's a tank on the court. And apparently off the court, too, is he had some driving issues going on in Charlotte. Like, look, I don't, never want to make light of it. He was involved in a car accident. But aside from the car accident, of course, like, you can't see that car. It's camouflage. How could you ever see it? Like, that's the whole point. You can't see it coming. Why is he driving a tank, Caroline? You live in Charlotte. Why is he driving a camo tank down these streets?
Those are fascinating, creative choices that Melo has made, but also bad judgment on LaMelo's part. When you look at the video, it's so avoidable. That was just you're not paying attention. You're driving too fast. You're putting people at risk. And thank goodness Melo didn't hurt himself or anyone else. But there's people walking around in Uptown Charlotte during the day. Everyone is walking around. So the level of carelessness is concerning. It's not the first time that we've seen Melo driving recklessly. You've seen that video of him peeling out of the arena at like 100 miles an hour. Slow down. Like, don't be an idiot. You look like an idiot in your car already, so don't drive like one.
Anytime somebody veers into the other lane, my first thought is, were we texted? Maybe he needs to, you ready for this, Josh? Maybe he needs to practice his driving.
We in here talking about practice.
Oh, look at that. You're welcome, America.
It's so good.
Let's move to the West. Golden State, 8th in the West, 29-26. The Warriors, playoffs or practice. I'll start on this one. I'm going practice. I'm going practice.
We in here talking about practice.
Thank you. I'm going practice because you're old. You're old and you're fried. All right, right? Like, it's just the number of times this year that we've been reminded that they're old and they're fried. They're old and they're fried. And also, what level of interest are they going to have in just trying to push their way down the end of a regular season and get themselves into a first-round playoff matchup where inevitably they're going to get their ass kicked anyway? I'm out. I'm out on this version of the Warriors. Their own coaches told them they're not competitive for a championship. I wonder if the Warriors even, consider shutting people down at the end of the year. I think this whole thing's going to go off the rails before the end of the season. I'm out on Golden State. What about you?
Have you ever seen the movie Animal House?
No, yeah, of course.
When he says dumb, fat, and lazy is no way to go through life. For Golden State, old, injured, and inconsistent is no way to find yourself in the NBA postseason, and that's exactly where Golden State is right now. The vibes are bad in Golden State. Everyone's banged up. They've been incredibly inconsistent. They were, it made some weird moves at the trade deadline. There's just nothing about this Golden State team and the way that they're playing on any given night that gives me a whole lot of confidence that they can find themselves in the playoffs. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis has been the face of inconsistency over the last several years. He's been unavailable. What's your best ability? It's your availability. Now, I don't want to doubt the power of Steph Curry. Because can Steph Curry single-handedly carry a team in the postseason? Yeah, I have that level of trust and belief in Steph Curry, but it's a little bit too rich for my blood, especially in this West. So I'm with you. I'm going practice. I don't have a whole
We
lot
in
of
here
faith
talking
this
about
Golden State
practice.
team. We're talking about practice.
And the thing of it is, look, Steph, go see Steph's new movie, GOAT, out there, animated movie. It's great, but I feel like it's a little bit of what Steph's dealing with. Like, he's a tiny goat in a sea of big old bulls trying to find his way into the playoffs. Not the Chicago Bulls. They're not much of an issue. All right, what about the Suns? One of the surprise teams in the NBA, 32-23, 7th in the West. I'm going playoffs for the Suns at this point. And again, I'll give a couple of things here. I like the star power of Booker. Book's been great this year. And as the season wears on, I fall in love with any team that plays like they actually give a damn about defense, which the Suns do. Like, I continue to die on this hill that if you can make things rough on the perimeter for anybody and you have somebody that wins on the perimeter, you win basketball games in the NBA the way it's currently constructed. So I think the Suns, one of the stars of the season so far this year. Just ask Matt Ishbia. He's out here going after Bill Simmons for not giving him enough credit. I don't want Ishbia in my Menchies. So, yeah, I'll go with the Suns making it.
Maybe we should just focus on being an owner of a basketball team instead of coming after people on social media. I don't know, like maybe just a little advice that I would give to anybody. Look, there is a certain kind of confidence and swagger that you can play with when you're there and nobody expected you to be here. Kind of feels like that's how the Suns are playing now. That look, everyone counted us out. We're playing with house money. So we can go out there and when we are not playing with a certain level of pressure that maybe some other teams in the West are playing with. And I think that can be an incredibly dangerous thing, especially the way that the Suns have been playing. I'm going to go narrowly practice. It's been fun to watch this Suns team. I think that they will be in it and will be in the conversation up until the 11th hour. I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see the Suns just on the outside looking in of the playoffs or the play-in. Again, it's a crowded West. It is busy at the top of the West, and I don't think the Suns have the horses to get themselves there.
We in here talking about practice.
Practice.
Oh, thank you so much, Alan. Look, I love that I call him Alan, not AI. There's
I was like, who's Alan?
It was Alan, yeah.
Never heard
Alan,
of him.
I feel like it's like, sir. No, I hear you on it. I think it's really interesting because the West is so good this year. So often missing the playoffs is a reason that we condemn a team for just living in the sea of suck at a level that is absolutely disgusting. I don't think that's the case this year in the West. There's going to be a good basketball team or two that find themselves on the outside looking in. And I'm not sure that's even the worst thing. Like, I'm not sure what's worse, missing the playoffs narrowly and at least being part of the lottery, or making the playoffs and getting your ass kicked by Oklahoma City. Speaking of which, Oklahoma City has a staggering stat that might tell us why they're even better than we think right now. You'll hear it next.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Now anyway.
Yeah, that's the one. Huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
Is the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you?
100%.
Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like even a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is like, he's like stepped back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I would say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
What if I told you that as good as Oklahoma City is, it can even get better? Their starting five have played a total of 42 minutes together this season. That's right. The defending champions, who are clearly one of, if not the best teams in the NBA, that we've talked about whether or not they could dominate at record levels, have had 42 minutes with their starting five. Nick Gallo joins us now, sideline reporter for Oklahoma City. All right, Nick, what do you make of this? Because certainly early in the season, even on this show, it was, could they have the best season of all time? That has sort of fallen off, but there's context to that. So where are you on the potential for greatness for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think this team is in a great spot in the sense that there's 26 games left in the regular season. The team's goal forever, since the team's been in Oklahoma City, is to build something over the course of a season, to be using the regular season to try to be playing its best basketball by the end of the season, and to have as many pitches in that arsenal to be able to throw when the postseason comes. And so for the Thunder, what we've seen this season is a group that's got the third most missed games due to injury of any team in the NBA. And so for this squad to be where they are at the top of the West, near the, at the very top of the league standings as well, in an incredibly competitive Western Conference, is really remarkable. Nearly 300 total games missed due to injury for this team this season, including two, some absolutely critical guys. A guy like J-Dub, an all NBA player from last season. It's really impressive to just see the way that the roster has been built and the depth that exists. And now Mark Daigneault and this team have had so many different opportunities to test out different lineup combinations, to get guys a little bit further down the road of their development tracks than maybe we would have seen them. A guy like AJ Mitchell has had a ton of on-ball experience. Cason Wallace the same.
Nick, it is so fun to watch this team from afar. So I can only imagine how fun your job is on a daily basis to be right in the middle of it. So I am envious of what you get to witness on any given night. But you bring up the injuries, you bring up Jalen Williams. What is the latest on his recovery? I know he's been dealing with a hamstring that we're going to reevaluate after the All-Star break. What's the latest with J-Dub?
Yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see coming out of the All-Star break. As you see there on your screen from Tim McMahon, he's going to be reevaluated here coming back. The team is having its first practice post All-Star break here today. So we'll hopefully learn a little bit more later on and heading into tomorrow's game against Brooklyn, we may have some sort of update, but it may be deeper into the weekend or next week. We don't quite know. These guys got a chance to either get away or to just be rested up over the All-Star break. So hopefully these guys are coming back and they don't have too much longer to go.
What do you expect? SGA coming back? This is Tim. Sorry, I'm looking at a million things here. When you look at SGA come back, what level of, I'm trying to say this gently, give a darn are these guys going to have coming into the back half of the season, knowing, frankly, how much that they've already played, Nick, how much has gone well, how much is there? Like, how do they stay motivated in the back half of the season that doesn't matter?
Well, it absolutely does matter. This is a team that is extremely motivated internally. Intrinsic motivation is one of the key drivers of what the Thunder looks for in players when they bring them into the team. It's people first, so the quality of human being and its competitiveness. And so much of the Thunder's evaluation process goes into those types of attributes. And so when this team comes back, you can absolutely expect them to continue to play with the level of tenacity and that verve that we've seen really, for years now. But this season, they've been the walking wounded to some degree. But a guy like Shea, he has an innate understanding. He talks about it last year after the finals, and then heading into this year, it was massive having home court advantage last season in the NBA playoffs. You look at Game 7 at home against Denver, Game 7 at home against Indiana. Those things matter, and this team, all of that, none of that is lost on this team. And so they're a group that tries to really focus on what's right in front of them. They're not thinking big picture, we've got to get this, but they know that if they stack each day doing the right things and they give themselves the best chance to win each day, well, that puts them in the best position moving forward in the long run.
It's so easy for us from the outside looking in at the level of dominance of OKC to say, oh, these last 2 games don't matter. Or, oh, you don't need this guy. But that's not always the case. So I think you're perfectly positioned to answer this question of how badly or how much do the Thunder need Chet Holmgren coming down this stretch?
Well, Chet is a pivotal piece of everything that the Thunder does. There's a reason why he was an all-star this year. His presence defensively, and then how fluid and how much he impacts the game without even having to touch the ball for long periods on offense. This is a guy I love to, when I'm here locally in Oklahoma City, I love to do this film breakdown where I have these 5 plays from Chet Holmgren in a game against the Golden State Warriors earlier this year. It's 5 plays. He is touching the ball for less than 10 seconds during the entirety of the 5 clips, and he generates 10 points for the team. And so it's just amazing to see what this guy is capable of in terms of his impact on winning, his understanding of how to put his team in positions to win, and how to position himself to help generate buckets easily for his team without dominating the ball. And then, of course, defensively, this is a guy that anchors the back line of the defense. His rim protection numbers are outstanding. If you look at it, I think players are shooting only about 41% against Chet when he's the primary defender this season. That's the second lowest in the NBA. And so this is a guy that absolutely drives winning, and he's done it everywhere that he's gone.
Does it surprise you at all? Because, covering college basketball when he was coming out and then covering the draft even when he was drafted, yes, he was considered one of the better prospects. But I don't remember, at least at the time, people looking at it saying, you know what, Chet Holmgren going to be a key piece to multiple NBA championships.
I think part of maybe, what that was is like Chet in college and Team USA. He's not a guy that's taking 20 or 25 shots a game. And so he has efficient impact without having to dominate the ball. And again, this has been a staple of everything that he's done throughout his career everywhere. I think when he was at Gonzaga, he only took 10 shots a game, but he was able to average 17 points and 9 rebounds, and the defense was outstanding. And everybody on the team kind of got to eat alongside of him. And that goes a long way, particularly in the NBA, such a competitive enterprise where everyone on the team is, scratching and clawing to be able to, maintain their place in the league. A guy that can be extremely efficient. You just look at his numbers this year, 57% from the field, 36% from three. This is a guy that's able to put the ball in the basket and be effective with it without having to, hold on to the ball and pound it into the dirt.
So we were talking about just a couple of months ago on this show, would OKC set the all-time wins record? That's what it felt like this team was on the trajectory on. And of course, at this point, we know that they're not going to set that record. But is this the factor of a team kind of letting their foot off the gas at this point in the season, saving themselves and preserving some energy going into the postseason, or is there something else there?
I think it mostly ties back to the injury issues, and it's hard in this league in the Western Conference to be able to maintain 98% win percentage for the entirety of the season. I mean, it's why it's only been done, it's why 70 has only been hit a couple times in NBA history. It's extraordinarily unlikely. You think about all of the seasons from all of the teams over the last 80 years of the NBA, and it just doesn't happen. So this team got off to an unbelievable start, and I think it did maybe skew perception of what is realistic for almost any team in the NBA. You got to remember, this is also still the sixth youngest team in the NBA. This group still has so much learning and so much runway ahead of it to go through some of these experiences. And what they've done is an anomaly, which is they won while they were young. They won while Chet Holmgren and J-Dub were still on rookie contracts. By the way, those guys are still on rookie contracts this season. That really generally does not happen in the NBA. It just doesn't. That's why they say people, guys' prime is 27, 28, 29. Shea's not even hit that yet. J-Dub and Chet are still years away from that. So I think that there's so much still on the runway for this team to learn and to grow into, and that's what's thrilling about the opportunity that's in front of this group is they continue to get better and they continue to look to build as opposed to maybe take stock of where they are historically. They're looking towards building towards the end of the season.
Stick with that youth for a second, though, because going into the playoffs last year, that was the biggest conversation. People didn't want to believe in OKC because we hadn't seen them win a chip yet, right? You've covered this team. What's the biggest difference you see in this year's Oklahoma City versus last year's now that they have a championship?
I think that there's just, maybe a level of assuredness that, they understand what goes into winning. But look, whatever happened in the past does not guarantee future results at all. And so that's probably been as a part of that assuredness. There's also the humility of the way that this team came into the season. Not a single person was talking about championship or talking about repeating or anything like that. What they were talking about was building. They were talking about like, hey, we've got to get back to zero. We've got to rebuild the habits that we built last season, because that was the formula to getting to where we wanted to go. You don't get to just start on third base at the beginning of an 82-game regular season. I think the start that we saw, the 24-1 start, was a great indicator of the maturity and the humility of this team. And I think as they continue to get whole, there'll be an even greater sort of assuredness and understanding of like, hey, here's the different tools that we have at our disposal. Here's how we can go and just rock out and play together.
Championships change everything, as we all know. So maybe last year nobody was talking about championships. All of a sudden you win one and the expectation in the bar is totally and completely different moving forward. Does it feel like there's a sense of championship or bust now?
I wouldn't say that. And I think part of the reason for that is, again, the long runway that this team has. I mean, especially in a small market like Oklahoma City, the thing that has proven out over time is you give yourself as many bites at the apple as you can possibly get. And this team, under the executive leadership of Sam Presti, has been set up for sustainable success. And so, years ago, Sam said, look, we want this to be an arrival, not an appearance when we make it back to the postseason. This was, during that kind of 2-year window where this team was restocking assets, restocking the talent pool on the roster. he said, when we come back, we want to be building something that can be sustainable so that we have, opportunities year after year to be able to get into the postseason. Part of the reason for that is there's going to be things that don't go your way. A lot of stuff, by the way, the Thunder and Sam Presti will be the first to say this. A lot of stuff went right for the Thunder last year. You could look at any team that's won a championship and they'll be very quick to point out all of the ways that the ball bounced in their favor, both on the court and off the court, with injuries, with draft luck, with a savvy trade or a mistake, and all the things that went well. The Thunder again has had the humility to understand. Look, there's a lot of things that bounced our way last year. All that we can do is control everything that we can control, so that if no matter where the ball bounces, no matter whether we have good luck or bad luck, we can put ourselves in position to capitalize on the good things that do come our way.
All right, you cover this team every single night. You watch SGA up close and personal. Who's the MVP in the NBA right now?
Well, obviously I get to watch this guy night in and night out, and Shea clearly has such a massive impact on winning. First of all, his defense is extremely underrated. I mean, this team has been the best defensive team in the league. I've had many opposing coaches come in to Paycom Center this year and say, look, this is a generationally great defense. Well, when you've got a guy that's playing 34 minutes a night and has the load that Shea has, and yes, he's got good defenders alongside him, but anybody that's playing 34 minutes a night on a historically great defense has to also be an excellent defender. And so right there, that categorizes him in a totally different landscape than just about anybody in the league who has this level of offensive impact, this level of offensive responsibility. To combine that with the impact on the defense and the way that he puts his team in position to win, both with his playmaking, his scoring, and then also the defense. It's just remarkable to see what this guy is doing. And so many of his teammates, guys that have been around this league for a long time, some of those sage veterans like Alex Caruso and Kenrich Williams, they'll say, hey, I really hope everybody appreciates what we're seeing with Shea right now, because this is the type of guy, we're not going to see this very often. And what Shea's able to do with the two-way impact is extremely impressive.
You guys can follow him on Twitter, X, at Nick A. Gallo. Nick, you're doing great work covering this team on the side. It's got to be a fun beat right now to get to cover this team on the sidelines, but you're doing a killer job with it. Thanks for your expertise as always, my friend. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yeah, those guys bring a lot of joy to Thunder basketball, so I'm just grateful to be, along for the ride. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
That's great stuff from Nick, and a great season for OKC. Coming up next, Mike Evans about to hit free agency. Where should he go? We'll figure it out.
Peterson looked like the clear-cut number one pick in the first half of that game. He looked like the clear-cut number one pick. The fluidity on the floor, the ease in which he moved off ball defensively, creating havoc. He looked majestic.
Sometimes it just comes down to as simple as this dude moves the way basketball players are born to move. Was Kevin Durant the last college scorer that made it look as effortless?
Did you go to the casino after the fight?
Hell yeah.
How'd you do?
We're up.
Up?
We're up.
Well done.
We're up.
Were you just walking around there after the fight and people recognizing you? Like, weren't you the guy that was just on the UFC?
Yeah, that's where I get recognized the most.
Really?
The other gambling legends, everyone recognizes me there. Anywhere else I go, no one knows me. But if I go there, everyone points me out.
The 72 Dolphins is infamously the no-name defense. This one's the too many name defense.
Too many names,
too many names.
Defenses were ahead of offenses this season for a lot of it. Like the best teams in the NFL had the best defenses. We're sitting here talking about this defense and how good it was and how hard it is to isolate one player. And yeah, that's the sport of football. It's a team sport. It's hard to isolate individual players, and Seattle really exemplified that all year.
We're ranking the actual threats from the absolute frauds.
Your contenders, who do you got?
My contenders. So I have Sporting, and I say that because they have had a strong top 8 finish over some other heavyweight teams. They're actually very, very hard to break down as a squad, and they're very, very strong in transition.
And they got a guy named Luis Suarez, which is fun. Just
guard your ears.
Bucks 6-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Mike Evans wants to keep playing. No shock there. Fully intends to play a 13th season in 2026. Where that will be is up in the air as he's an impending free agent, but his heart's always been in Tampa. So let's figure it out, because certainly free agency is about to hit the NFL and everybody's got eyes on how to improve their roster. Mike Evans played only 8 games last year, failed to reach 1,000 yards for the first time in his career. But Caroline, I struggle to look at that and say, man, he's not going to play somewhere. And we're talking about somebody that has just over and over and over brought it. No matter what, I can't imagine that that's the way he goes out of the league.
He can't. There's no way. I was 0% surprised to see that Mike Evans wanted to come back. When you have such a storied and consistent career like Mike Evans has had, you don't want to go out not on your own terms. You don't want to go out with a broken collarbone in the first sub-1,000-yard season of your career. No way. Mike Evans isn't built that way. I think that we need to be realistic about what Mike Evans will be in his age 33 season. There is something about that 30-year threshold where wide receivers, running backs, players just in general start to see, the back half of their career decline just a little bit. But the thing that I think is interesting and specific about Mike Evans, what makes him so great? It's his size. That doesn't go away with age. He's not going to shrink and lose 50 pounds in the offseason. So he just has such a big, dominating presence that's really difficult for opposing corners. That doesn't go away with age. The other thing that makes Mike Evans so special is he's got hands. You throw anything his way, Mike Evans is going to grab it. He's got sticky mitts. That doesn't go away with age. I look at DeAndre Hopkins as somebody very similar. DeAndre Hopkins' calling card wasn't speed. It was his hands. He can have that level of production at 34, 35 years old because that just doesn't go away the way that speed starts to dissipate with age. So Mike Evans is still going to be productive at age 33, I believe. It was a broken collarbone. It wasn't, lingering soft tissue injuries that'll start to, wear and tear and rear their ugly heads throughout your career. It was a weird, fluky, accident broken collarbone that you can recover from. So while it's fair to say we're not going to get the same level of production from Mike Evans at 33 that we did at 25 and 26 and 27 when he was in his prime. But Mike Evans still can be, and I think will be, a very productive and dangerous receiver this upcoming season.
Look, I'm going to go back to my own fandom and my memories of watching Jerry Rice, who was 39 years old when he left the 49ers to go play for the Raiders. He played 3 full seasons for the Raiders, and in that time, he averaged 141 targets, 84 catches, and 1,040 yards per season. Why? Because he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, wide receivers of all time, but also because his game was built to age. And I look at Mike Evans, to your point. We talked a lot about what's going to happen with Tyreek. We talk a lot about what's going to happen with wide receivers as they get older. Well, if speed is the majority of your game and you start to lose speed, that's one thing. Mike Evans is a guy that has every route available in his route tree. There's nothing he can't accomplish as a wide receiver. So to me, what I look at is, if I'm Mike Evans, I want to go somewhere where I know I have a quarterback that is absolutely brilliant when it comes to football knowledge, right? Like, I want to go somewhere where I've got somebody that's seen a lot of football that I'm going to be able to just have that communication with, that I'm just going to be able to look over and see. Hell, we're looking at Devontae right now go in and continue to play at such a high level no matter how old he gets. Why? Because he's getting with quarterbacks that know how to make the most of veteran wide receivers. If I'm Mike Evans, I'm looking around at a Buffalo and Josh Allen. I'm looking around wherever, like if my main focus, and I want to say clearly, Mike Evans already has a Super Bowl ring. So he does not have to chase a Super Bowl ring. Yes, I'm throwing shade at some people. But at the end of the day, if he wants to chase a Super Bowl ring, there are quarterbacks in this league that immediately make you a Super Bowl contender. There are teams that he could go to where he immediately makes such an impact. And I think his game ages perfectly. So to me, Mike Evans not only has 1 year left to come in and chase this, Mike Evans has a few years left where he can go in with a quarterback like him and Allen a Mahomes. Give me one of the best guys in the league that's seen a ton of football so that the two of them can get on the same page quickly. He can adjust his routes to what his game does best in this current moment. If you do that, I think Mike Evans can be a huge part of contributing to a Super Bowl and getting another Super Bowl ring in the process.
Finally, Fitz, he can sniff a Lombardi. Finally, because he hasn't been doing that in Tampa. Yeah. I'm kidding. If you haven't seen the video, go find it.
Google it.
There are just look it up. It's not you go ahead and do your own thing. There are a lot of teams that are far more wide receiver needy where Mike Evans could probably be a bigger impact for. I look at the Patriots. I look at the Bills. I look at the Chiefs. Mike Evans could be a plug and play type of player and make a massive impact for those teams. I don't want to see a world, though, where Mike Evans isn't wearing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers uniform. Like, he's a lifetime Buck. He's expressed that he wants to be a Buccaneer forever. And look, maybe priorities change and things change as you start to enter the twilight of your career. Maybe there are, certain things that are more important than playing for the same team for the entirety of your career. Mike Evans reserves the right to change his mind on that if he so chooses. And by all reporting and everything that we've heard, Mike Evans will kind of go through a free agency tour. It's not a given that he's going to return to Tampa Bay, even though Tampa Bay is in the cards. I don't want to see him anywhere other than Tampa. He's a guy that's meant so much to that organization. I think he's a guy that puts a lot of, value into playing for one franchise for the entirety of your career. That's a rarity these days. So while I do think that he would, be closer to sniffing a Lombardi in Buffalo or Kansas City than he would be in Tampa Bay this season, I just want him to be a Buck, just for the warm fuzzies of it all.
Well, I look, when you said that, immediately I was like, God, you're so right. I mean, that what makes sense. And just looking at it now, before doing any conversions to make extra cap space, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as we sit today, have $23.4 million available, and they have some easily convertible contracts. So they can make plenty of space to sign Mike Evans should they want to sign Mike Evans. It's a question of, does it work for the player? Does it work for the team? These are the moments where I think it's best for all of us as football fans if it does, right? It's best for Baker. This is an interesting year for Baker Mayfield. We're not really talking a lot about it yet, but over the summer, I think one of the stories is going to become, how much do we believe Baker Mayfield can take the Buccaneers to the next level of whatever the Bucs are supposed to be? I trust Baker Mayfield a hell of a lot more if he's throwing to Mike Evans than if he's throwing to random people that we're not thinking of today. I trust Baker Mayfield a hell of a lot more if he's doing it now than rather than doing it in the draft. So I think there is some element of Baker that wants Mike Evans back as well.
Of course. I mean, if you're a quarterback and you can have Mike Evans, you're going to take Mike Evans. I worked on radio in Nashville with a 15-year NFL wide receiver veteran, and he told me that he thinks Mike Evans is the best receiver in the NFL. And we're talking about an NFL with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and Jackson Smith and Jigba and all of these receivers that we view as the best in the league. And he said, no. The consistency, the reliability, the hands of Mike Evans, he's the best receiver in the NFL. And I think it's fair to say that Mike Evans is the most underrated receiver in the NFL because he doesn't come up in conversation of the best receiver in the league, and he probably should. It's almost like we just kind of know that Mike Evans is always going to be there, so he doesn't get his due, which isn't fair. Mike Evans does deserve to be in that conversation. When you look at the construction of the Bucs, though, they have a lot of needs. Defensively, they could improve the offensive line. You do have Chris Godwin. You do have Emeka Egbuka, who is entering in his prime into the league. Do you absolutely positively need Mike Evans? Is the money that the Bucs would pay Mike Evans the best place to spend that money? It's fair to argue no, that money is better spent elsewhere. But I don't want to see a Bucs offense without Mike Evans. To your point, I'm not totally, reserved to the fact that Baker Mayfield is going to be the quarterback in Tampa Bay for the next 5 years. I'm not reserved that Tampa Bay is going to win that division and make the playoffs and go on a postseason run. So how do you feel more confident about that? Consistency at the wide receiver position. That's exactly what Mike Evans brings you.
I will continue to die on the hill that if the quarterback class next year is anywhere near what's expected of next year, basically every single veteran quarterback in the NFL that's not a superstar, a bona fide, up on billboards, superstar top 10 quarterback is going to be trying to keep their job. Everything next year is going to be about, do I take a replacement that's cheaper in the draft in what is considered a very, very, very strong draft class, and everybody's going to be intoxicated still by everything that we saw from the Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels draft. Everybody's going to believe that one can be as good. So Baker's certainly going to be up against it this season. So we'll continue to break down his free agency is right here, right now, the Combine next week. Plenty of NFL talk coming up. But coming up next, Kendall Baker going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on what we saw. Man, I'm going to be honest. I was puckered up. I was nervous as all get out last night. We'll make some sort of reaction out of what we saw from hockey last night in the Olympics.
You covered Darnold with the Jets. Where are you kind of just feeling about him?
Another game with 3 games in a row, no turnovers for Sam. The sack avoidance snipe from Sam was incredible. The back and forth between Sam and Milton Williams was honestly really impressive for Sam on my part, because I thought that it wasn't his best game of the season, but it was the game he needed to have, which was clean. He won the Super Bowl. He's going to get a contract extension. It's kind of cool to see his redemption story.
What was it like being at MSG? Like in the back, the locker room, like could you feel that it was a little different?
It's a total different experience from being there as a spectator to actually being there backstage and all of that stuff. Total different experience. I was so tuned into my fight. I don't even think I was looking at the referee. I'm just there, just kind of just like looking down. I'm listening to what he's saying. At the same time, I'm just thinking about the fight. I'm like, yeah, all right, y'all done? You ready? Right? Yeah. All right, it's time to go.
The Premier League has gotten so successful. Survival has become such a priority. Maybe that doesn't lead to the most like entertaining football match.
The one thing that you want to avoid is having this like runaway first place team by Boxing Day, which happens more often than not. This has been, I would argue, a little bit more exciting this season. The entire mid-table is packed.
Yeah.
So
as an Everton fan, I'm like, yeah, we in the mix.
For Clippers fans, I just feel bad, Tom. I mean, I feel bad. It's always something with the Clippers. It's always something. And then, you know, the year begins and the whole aspiration thing, and then the team sucks. And then they start winning and they make a run and they're in the play-in and the playoffs are ahead. And then this all happens. James Harden does it again. He asks for another trade.
Here I am last night, just trying to enjoy a little bit of sashimi, enjoy a nice night, nice dinner, watch a little hockey in the background, and suddenly I'm puckered up, sitting there screaming at a TV. Team USA needed overtime to beat Sweden. 3-on-3 hockey, by the way, a delight with that Olympic rink. I was absolutely wildly nervous. So we'll figure this out now with Kendall Baker, our good friend and host of the Yahoo, author of the Yahoo Sports AM newsletter. Kendall, I don't know. What are you making for this? Because certainly the tying goal with, a minute to go, my heart was not ready for this, man.
I don't think anybody, expected, especially if you look at the day as a whole, 3 overtime games. I feel like for the NHL, for the hockey world, like yesterday was pretty much an ideal situation. You got, 4 for 4 would have been even better, but 3 overtime games, the 2 favorites who everybody sort of is hoping advance to the gold medal match are still alive. Like, just a crazy day of hockey. I loved it. Midday hockey on a Wednesday. When you have the ability to watch it, it's great.
I feel like when I was a kid and I would watch like reruns of sitcoms whenever I was sick from school in the afternoon, like that's how it feels. Watching midday hockey games, midday skiing, whatever it might be. But the hockey's been epic. It's been awesome. And it's all leading up to the ultimate apex that I think we're all rooting for, Canada, USA on the men's side in the gold medal game. Do you think that this team, the amount of hockey that we've seen, the level of hockey that we've seen, has the ability to do to the NHL what the 92 Dream Team did to make the NBA popular globally?
The Dream Team is such a alone. Nobody's matching that. But yes, I think certainly the eyes of the world are on hockey here. I've seen all these reports around. I'm not there in Italy. I wish I was, but tons of people walking the streets with hockey jerseys on, sort of what you saw happen in Paris with the Summer Olympics and people wearing NBA jerseys. Like, these are, outside of a handful of other Olympians, like the stars of these games. Obviously, Canada, US is a, on paper, like, more even matchup than historically also. So as we sort of get closer and closer to that potential gold medal match, I do think the eyes of the world are going to be on that. The end of the Olympics is all sort of comes down to that. So hopefully this weekend, that's what we're talking about. But yeah, I think there's a ton of momentum around this. First time with NHL players in the Olympics in 12 years. So everything is sort of playing out as we were hoping. And the fact that you have these other teams, particularly Slovakia, kind of coming out of nowhere, showing the depth of hockey talent across the world. They have, I believe, 7 NHL players compared to these other semifinalists all have pretty much full NHL rosters. So you got some guys that aren't even in the NHL that are sort of making some noise. So it's sort of a really good moment for hockey to show, the star power and also the fact that even outside the NHL, there's some great talent around the world.
To that point, Kendall, I find myself watching and I hear names and I'm like, wait, I know him. And it doesn't matter what country we're talking about, which I think is beautiful. To be clear, I was rooting as hard for Canada as I was for USA yesterday because I want this game. I want USA versus Canada, 8 a.m. Sunday. If you're going to get me up early for waffles, then give me the matchup that I want. But how concerned are you for Canada, given the fact that they also needed overtime to win that game?
Yeah, I will say, they a little sloppy. I think, a lot of times when it comes to these tournaments, you could have the sort of the contrarian take that a game like this is maybe a good thing. Obviously, you have to survive it first, but I do think, maybe in the grand scheme of things, if they go on to win this tournament, they look back at this is the game that really got their fire going. They kind of cruise through qualifiers. So I'm not too concerned. They're still by far the most talented team. That line with, I think they're calling it Mach 3 with McDavid, McKinnon, and Macklin Celebrini. Those might be the 3 best players in hockey right now. The fact that they're sharing a line is crazy to watch. But yeah, look, hockey, particularly you think about the NHL playoffs, same thing. These games come down to very few moments, oftentimes come down to goaltending, frankly. So, this was not, a surprise, but I think that the biggest concern for Canada coming into the tournament remains is goaltending. U.S. has the best goaltender, Canada certainly does not. So that's something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't say it was a story of that game, but yeah, again, maybe this is a good thing for them that they got a little bit tested. Obviously, losing Crosby, we haven't gotten an update on that yet if he's going to be ruled out or not. But that would obviously be another huge blow and outcome from this game too.
What do you think could be or will be the effect of potentially losing Sidney Crosby?
Huge. People, I think casual fans think of him as he's on the older side. Maybe he's just bringing leadership. He's one of the best players in the league still. I think he has 6 points in their 4 games. So obviously you lose the leadership component. You can still, say things in the locker room. I was reading reports about the speech he gave to them after he was injured and sort of telling them to go win it. So they went and did that. He still will be able to play that leadership role. But this is not some aging veteran who's just there to, inspire the younger guys. He's still one of the best players in the world. He's one of their best players. So it would be a huge blow, obviously, psychologically for them. But, he hasn't been ruled out. It didn't look great, but it also, nothing is suggesting he's extremely injured or anything. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll hear in the coming hours, coming days. But yeah, it'd be huge blow.
If the news isn't good on this, not just for the Olympics, how's the NHL going to react to this when they've put their season on hold to let this happen?
Yeah, outside of a McDavid or McDavid, might be the only guy. This is maybe worst case scenario if it's a very bad injury, if he has to miss time for the Penguins. That's the nightmare scenario that every sports league, when it comes to participating in these things, that's the counter argument to doing it that you always hear. It's if this happens, the owners are going to be, it would not be good. And so we'll see what happens there. Yeah, he's arguably still the face of the sport. And certainly coming out of the Olympics, if we have some epic final that is sort of dulled a little bit by this injury for sure. So hoping for the best for sure for them.
Yeah, no doubt. All of the, anti-Olympic hockey people yesterday were like, see, this is why we don't do this, even though the hockey has been absolutely epic. Let's just say USA falls short of a gold medal. What will be the reason why? Yeah, sorry to, poo-poo on everyone's parade.
Yeah. Look, on paper, the two best teams, but Canada is still, I've seen some people sort of argue that maybe the U.S. has a better team. Canada is a more talented roster. Like I said, they have a line with arguably the three best players in the world on it. Same line. Like that's crazy. It's always been the case, obviously, Canada being a power. But I think the only answer there really is like, it'll just be a talent gap. I mean, the U.S., I will say, is definitely a tougher team. I think they've been a better defensive team. I don't think they've given up a single power play goal yet. So defensively looking very strong. But I mean, if Canada plays their best hockey and their best players are on top of their game, like they're very hard to beat purely from a talent perspective.
All right, so the gold medal matchup is going to be huge this weekend. That's not the only big event going on in sports this weekend, though. Got to talk to you because Yahoo's AM sports newsletter, I should say, covers so much. Let's talk a little bit about college hoops. It's a big Saturday for everybody. So this is massive. For anyone that doesn't know, we have number 4 Arizona versus number 2 Houston, and then number 1 Michigan, who has looked absolutely incredible, versus number 3 Duke. Which matchup gets you more pumped for this Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, awesome. I think. By the way, I think it's like the 4th time we've ever had all 4 teams in action on the same day, and I think 3 of those were in like the actual Final Four. So it's very rare to have this happen mid-season. Obviously, you have like Michigan, Duke, out-of-conference opponents playing. Like, there's a lot of things here that are not normally what you see in mid-February. I would have to say Michigan, Duke, as you alluded to, Jason. Like, Michigan has been really impressive. Not just the fact, they're number 1 for a reason, not just their record, but if you go look at like the ranked teams they've played and some of these scores, they're blowing teams out by like 30 points. When they play their big lineup, like they got a 6'9" guy, they got 2 7-footers, like they're a problem. And obviously you match that up with Duke, which obviously just has Boozer, freshman star power, not as deep as Michigan. So it's a very interesting matchup, and yeah, I just think Michigan's the best team in the country, personally. I guess the AP poll agrees with me. So that's just a better game, in my opinion. Then, like, not to dull Houston, Arizona, but Arizona's missing their best freshman. Houston just lost. So there's a little bit of luster gone from that. But overall, like, one of the best mid-February Saturdays in college basketball I can remember.
Do want to touch on that game, though. It feels weird to say that these two teams have been struggling because Arizona's lost 2 games. It just so happens to be their last 2 games. Houston, number 2 team in the country, they just lost to Iowa State. But who do you think in this matchup needs a win more?
It's a great question. I'd probably say Arizona, to your point, 3 straight losses, having they've won their first 23 games or 26 games, whatever it was. So that, I just think that 3 losses starts to be like a potential red flag. Obviously, like I said, they're missing Pete, so that maybe has something to do with it. But yeah, I would say Arizona, just if they want to get back into the conversation, all season long, undefeated, is this team going to run the table now? All of a sudden, starting to poke holes in that. So yeah, I would definitely say them, though. Houston having just lost as well. It feels like a much bigger game for both teams from a momentum perspective than maybe we would have thought looking at this on paper like 2 weeks ago.
Kendall, by the time we get through Saturday's action and Sunday morning's action, I'm going to need a drink. All right, at brunch, we're just going to have. It's going to be one of those brunches.
And we got all these other Olympics going on. We got MLS kicking off. It never sleeps, And then
it's too much.
It's bottomless mimosas.
This is why, by the way, you need to check out and subscribe to the Yahoo Sports AM newsletter. It does a great job of getting you everything you need to know that's going on. Comes into your inbox every single day. It's great work by Kendall Baker. Kendall, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks, guys.
Now,
Thanks,
Caroline,
Kendall.
as much as we continue to talk about college basketball, Boozer's a big part of why Duke and everybody seems to want their shot at the top of the draft because we've got some young absolute stars in the game. But we did get some NBA news that lets us know that the Sacramento Kings are trying to do everything they can to get one of those stars as they let everybody know that Sabonis and Levine both out for the year. They've got getting procedures done, getting everything cleaned up. I don't know. This doesn't surprise me. And honestly, Caroline, I don't really have a problem with it. You know you're not contending this year. You know you need some procedures done to get things cleaned up. Why not start the rehab process early so that your team's as healthy as possible next year, and you hope that you win the lottery and you got a superstar with them? It's win-win.
It makes sense for the Kings to do this. And this is my counterpoint to everyone saying, okay, well, find the teams if they're so clearly and obviously tanking like the Jazz were and sitting their two leading scorers in the second half. But anytime you have a rule, teams are going to find a way to get around it. So if the Kings are saying, okay, we're ready to tank, we're going to sit everybody. Okay, well, then we're going to get fined $500,000 if we do that. So why don't you just go ahead and get those procedures that you've been needing to get done? Why don't you get the things cleaned up that you've been needing to get cleaned up? And then that way it's an easy rebuttal to, okay, well, you're tanking. No, our players are just getting the procedures done that they need to get done. It just so happens to be at a very critical point in the season, and we're trying to out-tank everybody else. So what is Adam Silver going to say about that? These aren't legitimate surgeries. These aren't legitimate injuries. Well, then if he says that, if that's the counter argument, then you're going down a really tricky path. No longer are you on the black and white side of things. You're getting in the mucky little gray area, and you don't want to be the one that starts to question the legitimacy of these injuries. So that's why I always go back to, I don't think that there is a proper way to curb tanking. It is what it is. It exists because that's the construct of the league that we're living in. And with you, Fitz, I don't have a problem with it. Just wishing them a quick recovery.
I can't imagine Kings fans have a problem with it either. The goal is to get better. You're not getting better this year. As you just saw on the graphic, they've won 12 games this year. And what's almost as shocking as the fact that they've won 12 games is they only have a 2-game lead for worst record in the NBA, a 3-game lead. The worst 3 records are all within 3 games, and they've won 12. So I guess my whole point to this, my whole counter argument is like, oh, congrats, you won 15 games instead of 18 games at the end of the year. Who gives a damn, right? Like at the end of the day, let the Kings start their rebuild so that they can actually hopefully try and someday play competitive basketball. Plenty more to come on tanking because it's the story that never goes anywhere. But in the meantime, coming up next, is it even legal? A picture of Wemby that has me scared for the future of the NBA.
Who's the dream fight? Like, who's the final boss for you?
Nyla Inoue.
Yeah, that's the one, huh?
Yeah, I feel like he's the guy.
What a freaking fight that would be.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
How far away do you think you are from this, like, maybe being a thing?
I would say maybe a year.
Yeah.
Maybe just a year away. Yeah, it's
the
right
dream
there.
to try to, like, get more belts so that entices him to come after you? Okay.
100%. He's going to get a wake-up call fighting a guy like me.
And Kenneth Walker wins Super Bowl MVP.
The way he's kind of molded his game to work for him has been fun because it's such a hard turn from where he started. Sometimes it feels like even a more dramatic version of like how Le'Veon Bell used to run the ball, how Le'Veon would stop and wait and see things open. But Le'Veon, like, he was hugging the ass of his centers and his guards. Kenneth is like, he's like step back so he can see the whole picture open up. And then when it hits, he's off.
The Sixers, to me, are the biggest loser of the trade deadline. You get these middling picks for Jared McCain, one of your most promising young players, to duck the tax. Just a joke. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm infuriated. The Sixers, losers this trade deadline. It's just so disappointing for Philadelphia, man.
Who in college football could experience that same level of redemption arc? And I was thinking, we've actually kind of seen it a little bit in the past. I'd say Jaden Daniels did. Remember when his teammates were like throwing his things out of his locker and talking trash about him when he left Arizona State, and then he goes and wins the Heisman at LSU?
It was a little bit of a turnaround. I wonder what those guys are doing now.
In a 10-page ruling, a U.S. district judge in Illinois says Buffalo Wild Wings can continue to call its popular menu item boneless wings, even though they are, quote, essentially chicken nuggets. Now, we could have a long, drawn-out conversation about wasted litigation and the time in the courts. Maybe they should pay attention to more important things, but I'm all in on this. Look, I don't care what you call them. I love them. Boned-in wings will never be the superior product. Boneless wings are the superior product, and if you want to tell me they're essentially chicken nuggets, I don't care. Like I like essentially chicken nuggets. Boneless wings are always king.
First of all, Fitz, what more important litigation could we possibly have?
That's fair. Let's
keep the main thing. Everything's going super well. Boneless wings are not the superior. Boneless wings are not the superior product, but that does not mean that boneless wings are bad. You know, if wing elitists out there say, well, boneless wings are just chicken nuggets. So what? Chicken nuggets are awesome. And if you think that you're better than chicken nuggets, well, that just tells me everything that I need to know about you. And you're probably not a very cool or a very fun person. Boneless wings are chicken nuggets covered in sauce. There is nothing bad about that. I will take chicken nuggets covered in sauce any day of the week. Any day of the week. We've got a lot of bad and a lot of sad and a lot of hate going on in the world. The last thing that we need to do is take away the joy of boneless wings or chicken nuggets from anybody. Let's just let everybody do what they want. Let's let everyone let their freak flag fly in peace.
Look, as long as you might get me on the bone-in being better than boneless, if we're only talking about flats, nobody wants drumsticks. Like, there's a reason that places cost they charge you more for flats. Right, we all understand this, and you're right. Like, I've decided that the next time that there's a national controversy of any sort, they're just going to come out and say, okay, here's the information. Here's the list you've been waiting for. But also, can I tell you over here about boneless wings not actually being wings? It's a great way to distract the world. Speaking of legal or not legal, let's look at some of the fun stories in sports over the last few days, including a local dog that crashed a qualifying event at the Olympics on Wednesday. This happened during the women's cross-country team sprint. A wolf dog. That's right, wolf dog. I don't even know if that's a real thing. Named Nazgul. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but it sounds cool. Managed to get his picture taken by the photo finish camera. Is it legal? Dogs crashing events. What say you, Caroline?
First of all, if you have a wolf dog, it needs to be named something like Nazgul. Like, you can't have a wolf dog named Stan. No, it needs something that, feels very Viking-esque. I love this so much, but I'm looking at my dog behind me right now, who is so asleep she is snoring and has her feet up in the air. So I think she would say that this is illegal, that no dog should move that much, no dog should move that fast, that Nazgul is setting a very dangerous precedent for all of the lazy lap dogs out there in the world. So Cece, my dog, says that's illegal.
Well, here's the thing. I showed the video to Annabelle, and Annabelle says she's in, and she wants specialized trainers. Look, I've had every range of dog in my life, from lap dogs that were too lazy to want to walk from room to room, to Annabelle, who I can literally take it's only the orange chucket. It's only that one particular ball. Any other type, any other size, any other shape, any other texture, she will not chase. But the orange chucket, if I throw that, I have quite literally stood in my backyard, thrown it for an hour to the point where she vomits, and then she brings the ball back to me, and she's like, all right, got my second win. Like, true athlete. That dog's a true athlete. She's in. She wants to be an Olympian. She is ready to be a competitor. So I say not only is this legal, I say that we start adding it to the 2030 Winter Olympics. Let Annabelle have her flag fly. We'll put a Team USA jersey on her, and you will just see how fast that dog is. I am in. I'm in on this. Look, I'm in for corgi races replacing the Pro Bowl. I'm in for dogs being part of the Olympics. I want all of this smoke, every single ounce of it. I think we should just give them their own category. Let them run. Like, look at that. Look at that. How can
let
we
him
not
go?
want that?
Look how happy Nazgul looks. Every dog deserves to feel as free and as fancy as that dog looks. And I think my dog will just be the equivalent of me, as I was stuffing pretzels in my face, watching figure skating, watching someone bumble just a little bit on a triple axel. I was like, that's embarrassing. As I'm sitting on my couch wearing sweatpants, my dog would do the same thing. Watching Annabelle, your dog, maybe come in second. She would be like, embarrassing, as she's taken 100 steps over the last week.
Yeah, the only problem that I'll have is Annabelle's not chasing anything that doesn't involve that ball or food. So I have to figure out how I'm going to throw a chuck it far enough to get her to run out. Like if I launch the chuck it, she'll go. If I just ask her to run, she'll just wait for me to throw the ball, which means I got to throw the ball as far as that track is. I don't think I'm capable of that. I'm going to need to enlist like Peyton or Eli. Like I need a quarterback to come in and just chuck the whoop, and then it goes, and then Annabelle chases it from there. Speaking of legal or
That's
not
what
legal,
Joe Milton would be very valuable for.
Oh my God! Like now we bring in the backup quarterback ads that we have everywhere. Like let me have a backup quarterback from the NFL come in and Chase Daniel. I'm calling not just come on the show and give us more film breakdown. Chase, I'm going to need you to throw the chuck it so that Annabelle can win a gold medal, which I will wear with pride. All right, how about this? Legal or not legal? There's an altered image out there. Shocking, but this one is not family friendly. It is a bulked up Victor Wembanyama. Check this out, Wemby. Chiseled. It looks a little bit like Wemby met. I don't know why his head's so small. Like your head gets bigger. His head's so small, but he is on a just jacked like linebacker body right there. What do you think? Is this legal or illegal?
That's illegal. I'm terrified. Jail. I'm scared. Now, there are certain things that I think should be allowed just for the factor of cool. And that might fall into that category. Just the idea of an nearly 8-foot tall man being as jacked as that, like that falls into the category of cool. I also feel like maybe he would be too strong for our own good, and that would put humankind at risk. I'm terrified of the idea of Wemby not being the slender man because he can't be tall and jacked. You can't have both.
Look, by the way, that picture right there, you cannot tell me that his face doesn't look like Damon Wayans. Look it up, kids. It's a spitting image to me. But you put him on that jack. I would tell everybody, I'd implore you, go back and look at Giannis in his rookie year. Giannis, my friend, you were a bit of a twig coming in, right? Like little wee tiny Giannis. Now Giannis no longer tiny, right? Like look at LeBron when I know LeBron was a kid, but look at LeBron when he came in versus LeBron now, who looks like he's on the verge of being an 80s WWE wrestler, right? Like not only is this legal, I think this is kind of possible. Like Wemby has made it very clear to the world that he is going to compete at every single level. He's the one that made it clear, hey, I'm coming to the All-Star game to kick your ass, right? Like, this is the version of Wemby we get. Not only is Wemby a dominant physical force that can shoot, Wemby is also a dominant competitor. I think he's got that gene in him that wants to go out and just destroy everybody. So as he continues to train, yeah, I don't see why we can't. Okay, that right there, that looks like, a stiff wind might actually blow him over. That version of Wemby is way closer to being like the inflatable car balloon guy. Like that's a scrawny, tall person. I want jacked Wemby that's going to come on because you think you can't stop that. How are you stopping that when it's full of muscles? Like this is absolutely Wemby muscular is the absolute freak that the NBA needs at that point. Man, the league be damned. He's just going to win every single game that he wants to win for the rest of his career. And think about this, Caroline. If robots try and take over the world, I bring Jack Wemby out. Jack Wemby, he's taking on all the robots. Yeah. That version of Wemby scares robots.
Who would win in a fight, Jack Wemby or LaMelo in his Batmobile? Because I think Jack Wemby.
Yeah, Jack Wemby, like this is like straight up superhero movie. Jack Wemby puts one hand up and he just looks at LaMelo and he says, "Don't do it, don't do it." And then LaMelo inches closer, and then Jack Wemby, he picks the truck up by like the tank truck. He picks it up, and just and then LaMelo goes flying out of it. And then Wemby, because he's a nice superhero, says, "Why'd you make me do that?" Right? Like that is nicer than the car's going to look after Wemby finishes with it. This is like we've unlocked a secret code here. We've unlocked a version of an NBA player, Caroline, that'll be bigger than LeBron at his peak, physically and from the height machine. That version, yoked Wemby, come on.
And also has a future in the Marvel universe. They don't even need CGI. They don't need makeup. They don't need a suit. Just he can walk onto set and say, "What are my lines?" I'll just hop in, do whatever I need to do, and then skirt because I don't need anything else. I myself am a superhero in and of itself. But there's no way that can be healthy. He's so tall.
Well, I mean,
his heart is going to explode.
Okay, I as long as he does it in a healthy manner, healthy enough. I'm all in for the eighth wonder of the world, Andre the Giant. Go back and look it up, Carolina 80s wrestling. Andre the Giant was so huge that when Hulk Hogan body slammed him, it was this sensation that even if you didn't watch wrestling as a kid, it became a cultural phenomenon. Wemby would become the cultural phenomenon of Andre the Giant. The question is, could anybody take him down? We would see like 5 or 6 NBA players crawling, like you couldn't go over the back on Wemby.
You know where Andre the Giant is from?
France, actually. He is from France, right? Oh, look at this. Oh, is there something in the food?
Superheroes are from France. Tell your friends.
Oh, that's this is the breakdown you can only get on Yahoo Sports Daily. More coming tomorrow, 9 a.m. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Come hang out with us again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
They never knew where the blitz was coming from.
No, they didn't. They couldn't recognize it. And that's where then, if you want to criticize Drake May for that, sure, you can. But also, you got to look at Josh McDaniel, because even when you look at the route concept, it really didn't set Drake May up to be successful against those blitz concepts.
Because make no mistake, there are some absolutely outstanding players in this year's draft. But Flag, if you don't think he's special, I don't know what to tell you.
I said it last year in my draft guide. There has not been another prospect with a higher floor with still an amazing ceiling than Cooper Flag. With Flag, the floor is just all-star.
Pronouncing names correctly, you are the king of this.
In Scotland, we have obviously our own pronunciations, and we would grow up hearing a lot of our Scottish towns said the wrong way, and so I think it's always been a little bit of a chip on